Happy Thursday, folks. Welcome back. Boy, do I have a doozy for you today. First, let me take you through a quick introduction of what budgeting is. So consider your finances like a beer can with a hole in it. So let's say this is your bank account, and let's imagine this is your money. Well, you're gonna have to spend eventually, right? So, there we go, nice and safe. So eventually, you're gonna start spending, and you got water coming out, right? Now, as long as the water coming in is more than the water going out, then you're pretty much all right. However, when you find yourself spending too much money, well, yeah, you tend to find your circumstance a little less effective, and you just kind of pour it right on through. So let's look at what budgeting would look like. Got another beer can here. Just, oh God, this is dangerous. Don't try this at home. So we looked at what the first can is, which let's say that's cash flow. So how much money you have coming in and you controlling how much is going out. Well, then what's the difference between that and budgeting? It's this. So let's say that these are your different kind of spending areas. This, because it's the smallest bowl, is your debts because you want to keep those low. This, let's just say, is your day-to-day expense, and this is your savings. Well, we've got the little hole in there because we want to control our spending, of course. So what budgeting is, I would say, is this. Rather than just pouring it in, you're making sure that you're using it to pay off some of your debts, but then you're also using it to pay off some of your day-to-day expenses. And then when you tilt the can this way, that's savings. And then you can put those into like assets and savings, which when you're older is gonna help you do this. You can keep paying off your debts and keep paying off your expenses. And when you buy assets, if I had some like magical siphon, well, that would be essentially how assets work, because the water would just keep pumping in and then pouring back out into it and cycling and accumulating, which was my first video, compound interest. Check it out. So this is what budgeting is. Alrighty, so now that you know what budgeting is, why don't we talk about how to budget? Step 1. I pick a goal or a target. Why? Because this gives me focus for what I'm trying to budget for. For example, purchasing this camera last year, which is making everything possible right now, was something that I budgeted for. Now this financial target can be whatever you want it to be, whether it's paying off your OSAP, and maybe set a specific goal, like pay your OSAP off in 3 years. That could be done. Or build a nest egg, or start investing. Whatever works for you, choose that as your focus. The best part about picking this target is that it then gives you a why. So why should I bother doing this budget? If you're not really sure what your target should be, then I have a couple suggestions for you as well. I think about this as a direction to help you move towards a solid financial future. So if you're stuck juggling trying to save with trying to pay off debts, with trying to make your little nest egg to be safe and secure for a short term, it can be difficult to try and figure out which one of these things to achieve. So this would be my recommendation. If you have any short-term debts, like a credit card, that would probably be my number 1 target. I say this because credit card interest is high. For example, this is my credit card that I have here, and I get charged 19.99% when I don't pay it off at the end of the month. So not only are you spending that amount that you're purchasing, but you're also getting charged an extra 20% on that amount. And that's just giving you more debt. That's not gonna help you pay off anything anytime soon. So that would be my number 1 step, is to pay off that. And what's nice about that is once you get that paid off, that's gonna help you get a little motivation for starting to achieve your other goals, because you've already knocked out step 1. So my second recommendation would be, and this is the point where I'm actually at right now, is making sure you're making regular payments on longer term debts. So if you have any student debt, I'm lucky that I don't, but if you do, make sure that you're at least paying the minimum on that, and then you should start building your nest egg up. Things can happen. You might lose your job, you could get in a car accident. I'm not trying to scare you here, but just planning for the future. So if you can manage your money in a way where you're paying your bills and your regular day-to-day expenses, and also starting to put money away just for a rainy day in case of an emergency or anything like that, then I think you are on the right track. So for number 3, which I think you could move on to once you've established a nest egg, would be to continue paying off your longer term debts and start considering where to put your money, where you can start investing it. And that's my current goal right now. I'm working towards a point where I'm comfortable with the amount of money I have on hand, and I'm spending my time looking and learning where to put my money for when I'm ready to start investing. Because with investing, you take on risk, which there are ways to mitigate, but that's how you can start developing a solid financial future. So for number 4, I would consider budgeting for bigger purchases, whether it's a camera or a house or a car or maybe just a nice vacation. That's something else that you can kind of tag on, I think, to any one of the other steps. Maybe not step 1, because getting your urgent debts paid off to me is more important than getting on a vacation. Rather than going on the vacation and being worried about each dollar you're spending, because you know when you get home you're gonna have to pay off that debt even more, and that's just not gonna make your vacation enjoyable. So that's part of the mental framework for why I budget. But the main reason, and this is why I feel so good about it, is because you're controlling your spending in a way that is essentially guilt-free. So when I have a budget, I can allocate a certain amount of money to exactly where I want to go, and if I allocate it correctly, that means if I want to go and spend $50 on a dinner or have a great fun day or go and buy something silly, well, I've accounted for that in my budget, so I can do that without guilt and I can enjoy it. So that's kind of my mental framework for why I budget. But I want to do one better for you, which is to actually show you how I do it in practice. So let's go to the table. This is literally what my budget will be for the next few months, since recently I've reduced my hours at work to continue making videos like this and start kind of working on my own things. And hopefully I can still manage, because I'm gonna be making about $400 less a month now, and that's gonna put a bit of a strain. So that's why I wanted to put this whole budget together to begin with, and I figured we could kind of go through it together. So when making a budget, I have a few different steps, some more steps, I know, that you can follow that I think would help you kind of figure out exactly where you're gonna be going with this. Step 1, I would say, is figuring out what your goal is going to be. So for my goal, I've set it simply as I would like to save at least $400 per month. So step 2 is figuring out your income, which I've done up here in this corner. So I make $15 an hour, and I've multiplied that by 0.8, so 80% of that. So that's more or less what it would be with tax deductions, and that comes to $12 an hour here. And then I figured out weekly, or I guess per paycheck, so $12, I work about 35 hours a week, and then times 2 weeks equals about $850 per paycheck. So then per month, let's say you get about 2 paychecks per month, then my monthly income would be 850 times 2, which equals $1,700, give or take, for the month. So step number 3 is figure out what your expenses were for the past month and break that down into needs, wants, and likes. And the reason why I say needs, wants, and likes is because it will help you prioritize what you have to spend your money on and what is kind of superfluous and just unnecessary to be spending. So for my needs, I have rent at $634 a month, groceries $220 a month, insurance $70 a month, utilities $45, and the TTC at $30 a month, which I don't usually use that much, but I just put $30 just so I'm not gonna run over budget if I have to use it. And then for my wants, well, these are things that I don't need in my life per se, but they really help me out and make it easier, and I do really want them to be a part of my life. So I have the internet, which is $45 a month, and then the phone bill, which is $67.90 per month. And then I like to go to the chiropractor once a month, which costs me $38, but it keeps me feeling good, and I think it's quite useful for me in wellness. Now, likes are things that are not necessary to spend money on, but I mean, we don't want to all just sit at home and be bored and lonely all the time, so it's good to spend a bit of money on things you like to do. So I put movies. I might go see a movie once a month, which is about 15 bucks. I also have a membership for Adobe, so I can use Photoshop and Lightroom, which is $15 a month. Dining out, I put out about $100 a month. And sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less, but let's say about 100. And then Netflix, I have at $11 a month. Again, all of these things I could completely not have and still be fine, but I do want to enjoy my life, so I like to have the likes. But when you're trying to manage your money, and let's say you have a lot of debts, these are absolutely the first things to go. Get rid of your likes, because they're just things that you can get by without. Yes, you might have to sacrifice a bit of the happiness or enjoyment of your life, but it's going to help you achieve your debt payments a lot quicker, and it's only for a short period of time, hopefully. So step 4 is figuring out what your total is. So my total for expenses are $1,221 a month, roughly. Step 5 is trying to figure out what are you going to do with your money. So this is my total here, which is the $1,700 minus $1,291 because I realized that I forgot the $70 for my insurance. So that leaves me with a net income, which is your income minus your expenses, of $409 for the month. And I'm actually quite surprised about this because I did not realize I was cutting it this close to my goal. I figured I'd have a bit more breathing room, but that's why I'm doing this budget in the first place, so I'm aware of this and I'm prepared for the future, and I'm not just running into it when it comes to bite me in the butt. So when you look at this total here, which is the full $1,700, you can see that there's this bit here, which is the $409, which for me, I choose to put in my tax-free savings account because I'm trying to build up my emergency fund or my nest egg. So I'm not quite at my other step where I want to start investing it because I don't feel like I have a good enough amount. And then this I just wrote as gone because that's all the money that I would be spending on whatever I want to spend it with. Last thing is 3 quick tips. Number 1, pay yourself first. Every paycheck I get, I take what I want to put into my savings out before any other expense, because then I know that money is off limits, it's out of sight, out of mind, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Number 2, consider timing or the time of year. So do you have a birthday coming up where you could potentially get some more money? Could that help your budget? Or do you have maybe Christmas or another holiday coming up where maybe you should consider reducing your expenses so you can afford to buy other Christmas gifts? Or can you just factor those into your budget so you know you can afford everything? And lastly, number 3 is that your expenses should always be lower than your income. So you want the water coming in to be more than the water that's going out, rather than this. So that's how I put my budget together, and I hope it's helped you put yours together too. Feel free to watch this as many times as you need, of course, and just follow along with it. Alternatively, there are plenty of apps, I'm sure, or websites that can help you with it as well. For me, it's just easier to kind of mentally track it and write it down. So give it a shot. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions on clarification, and send some comments down below if you think there's anything else you wanted to get clarified, or if there's anything you want further explored, because I'd be happy to work on that. So I guess with that, have a great day. See you next Thursday. Seriously though, that's dangerous. Oh shoot. The input hole as well.